Now that all the hard tasks on the body are done, the pickup cavity is routed using a template. Once this is done, I use a binding bit with a 5mm offset to get a groove that will receive the back plate. The form of the back plate is transferred to a piece of paper. Now I start sawing some tropical wood, which I actually don't exactly know what it is, into dimension to build the back plate as well as the pickup covers from it. A scrub plane is such a useful tool, and you can build one with a cheap wooden plane from the local flea. After I rough out the shape on the bandsaw, I refine it on my disc sander. Now the rest of the cavity gets painted with shielding paint. Here I am drilling the hole for the jack output. Before I start on the jack plate, I start building a custom neck plate made from brass. And now it's just a lot of filing and sanding to get it to dimension. Once I am happy with the shape, I start drilling the holes for the screws and sink them with a countersink. I then mark the positions for the screw holes and bore them on the drill press. In order to bore the holes in the neck, I like to put it in the neck pocket and use a hand drill. The neck plate will also get a custom engraving, and I used the traditional hammer and chisel engraving method. The engraving tool I made using some 4mm round stock of carbide rods, and there are plenty of YouTube videos if you just Google for hammer and chisel engraving on how to do that. Once the engraving and all these scrolls are done, I use a regular center punch to add some depth to the background of the engraving. Holding it at an angle gives you a nice effect depending on the angle you look at the engraving. In the end I put some Hammerit color in the engraving. Usually I would use acrylic paint or the paint you would use for model cars and things like this, but I forgot it in my other shop and this will do as well. Once the paint was dry I polished the plate with some steel wool off camera and removed excess paint. With the neck plate done I start dimensioning the wood for the pickup covers using a thicknessing jig. Then I start dimensioning the pieces on the shooting board. The covers are made from the rest of the walnut tub and some of the unknown exotic wood. I clamp a 45-degree block on my shooting board to cut the miters on the walnut pieces that will make the frame for the cover. Since this is a end grain to end grain joint, I again use CA glue. And once the faceplate is glued into place, the whole cover will be stable enough. With the glue dried, I use sandpaper to flatten the bottom and the top of the frame. Next I plane the faceplates to a perfect fit on the shooting board. Using the Proxen tool I route a slot in the middle of the faceplate that leaves just under a millimeter of material. This way I make sure the covers aren't too thick to cause trouble with the pickups registering the vibrations of the strings. When I glue the panels in, I want to have them recessed ever so slightly to set a nice detail. Therefore I put a piece of veneer on the table and press the panel onto it to get an even recess. For the glue up I just use some drops of CA glue in the corners that will get sucked into the joint by capillary action. Here I start turning the custom potty knobs. They will be made from walnut with brass inlays. This bit definitely has seen better days. The brass inlay will be 4 mm wide, so I drill a hole in the knob to receive a brass rod. Turning brass on the lathe actually works very well with scrapers. After sanding, I applied some penetrating oil from Crimson Guitars off camera. The jack plate will be custom made from brass as well. Once I cut it roughly to size, I start refining it on the disc sander. And I start to drill the hole for the jack stepwise. And now you can see why you shouldn't use blunt drills, or at least clamp the piece down onto the drill table. If Hansaplast sees this video, please sponsor me. After drilling the holes, I start peening the brass into shape, so it fits the curvature of the body. This was a lot of trial and error and took quite some time, but in the end I got there. With the curvature added, it was a really annoying task to sand this little piece smooth and shiny. But in the end, the effort was well worth it. It looks great. And here I start building the cover for the truss rod. I used the same technique as earlier to put it on the shooting board with the offcut from the neck to get the perfect angle on the front of the piece so that it sits tight against the nut, as you already saw in the episode where I built the neck. The plate will be held by small magnets that I drill the holes for now. I drill through the plate itself to get perfect alignment of the magnets, since it will get a cover plate anyways on top of it. To glue them into place, I use CA glue again. Then I build the piece that goes on top of the plate. This will add a lot of depth to the headstock and also covers the holes from the magnets. I glue it in place with some CA glue again, since this piece doesn't really receive a lot of stress. we're done. Thanks for watching and have a great day.